Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week on the Cyclekart we're going to make a start on getting a mould for the nose cone. See you in a minute. Now I'm beginning to wonder whether this build is more about the gratification of buying things and getting them delivered than actually building. Just had a very big delivery in two parcels. There's this one and another big one here, which I hope are all the bits and pieces I need to get the mould made for the cowl, or the front nose cone I mean, and hopefully there may well also be enough bits left over in that to do a lot of the fiberglass work as well. It's a kit from Easy Composites in the UK for glass fibre work, but in addition to the kit I've bought some other extra bits as well. I think the best thing to do is get this on the floor and we'll pull them up bit at a time, but it's heavy. And what have we got? I think this is first bit. This is Unimold. Oh, this is the kit, I think, and it's Unimold kit regular. This should give me enough materials to make the whole of the mould. It contains some glass fibre mat, which I think is 250 grams. I think there's some 400, I'm not sure whether it's 4 or 450, heavier duty mat, some brushes, which I've already got a load in here anyway, some gloves, and a roller to get the fiberglass rolled down. So that's the actual matting in there. Might as well, when I find them, put all the other brushes in with that as well. And then we've got a tin of tooling resin. We have a tin of coupling coat and a tin of gel coat, I think. Yes, gel coat. So I think the perception is that once you've prepared the mould, you put a coat of or two of gel coat on, which will give you the shiny finish of the mould, a coat of coupling coat, which is to glue, effectively glue the gel coat to the main resin, and then you put your mat with the tooling resin on afterwards. Those are the mech catalysts for those resins. That's a mould release agent. I wasn't sure when you pull the mould off when you pull the mould that you've made off the buck, it needs something to help it release, and the perceived wisdom was that you put a couple of 3 coats of wax on first. When I went on and spoke to some of my UK Cyclekart guys who'd had experience with this, they reckon use the PVA mould release agent as well. So I've got the wax to polish it effectively, the mould, and then the release agent as well. I couldn't see how PVA mould release agent would stick to the wax, but apparently it will do, so that's it. And there's some wax there which you use to effectively fill in all the cracks and joints and things, just to make sure it will all come off. So that's all of the stuff for that. Oh, I know, yeah, I think I know what this was. I ordered some material that the mould will not stick, the fiberglass will not stick to. This is to actually effectively attach the buck to, and then you can effectively get a joint all the way around it. I think that's what it is. It's like a polypropylene sheet. that's non-stick. See? Yes, polypropylene sheet. It's the same sort of stuff that they make your kitchen cutting boards and things out of, and that the woodworking guys that do resin moulding make their river tables and things out of. It gives you a very smooth finish that the glass fibre will not stick to. So if I stick my nosecone mould, let's get it in a minute, I can get all the dust off it first as well. That will stick onto that, or will be attached to that probably with screws, and then when you bring your fiberglass down and round all the way around that edge, it won't stick to this, and you'll peel it back and it'll give you a nice surface that will be able to bolt another surface to. Or similarly, I could put a line all the way down the middle of this stuff to the profile, do the two halves, and they won't stick. So that's what the polypropylene sheet is for. You'll see that when we get building, see if it works okay. So we can now get on and make a mould for the nose cone. And what I'm hoping is that the size of the kit is such that I will have enough material to actually pop a nose cone out as well in the first place with the materials I've got, and hopefully I'll only need just to top up resin and or cloth. Right, so it's finally time to make a start on getting this nose cone moulded off, or a mould taken off the plug. It's something I think I've been putting off because I don't know what I'm doing, and therefore I've been a little bit perhaps frightened by it. But it's time to do something with it because I really need to get this, to get the front end moving. I've got some polythene, I think it's HPDPE or something, I don't know, it's non-stick anyway, which I will anchor the base down to. And originally I was going to do it in two halves, lengthways like that. And the more I thought about it, not only does it take a lot more material to do that anyway, in terms of the shuttering I need to put up first, but actually the bit that's sort of hidden is the bit behind the wheels, which is to do it that way. So I can probably do a break in the mould. I could do it in one piece, I believe, but I'm a bit reluctant to do that. So I've just taken the plan view of the car that I've got the full-size print and reused that once again, taken some measurements of it and stencil from it, and then that's given me a shape which is effectively what the nose looks like looking down on it. And then from that I made a cardboard template that fitted to within, you know, a few millimeters here or there. I can fill and sort that out later. And then I've moved on and cut on the bandsaw a mask which will go halfway down the nose, about there, and I'll locate that with hot glue gun or something, both at the bottom and all the way around. And so that means I can do that half. It'll put a flange on it all the way around there. Then I'll take that off, leaving the original there with the flange still upright, and then I can do this second half, putting all the wax and that over the end of the mould so it won't get stuck. I think that's the worst bit at the moment that I've got to worry about, because that was never finished because it was on the bottom and I didn't think I'd need to, but I think the way I'm doing it, I ought to at least cut a piece of this and just hot glue gun it on square so that it gives me something for the mould to strip out. It doesn't matter because all that's cut away later on. I've also got to fill in the cracks on the bits that I left where the front suspension, front axle runs through, and that will just take a load of fiberglass in if I'm not careful and mean that the mould won't strip. And then I've got to go around and obviously fill all the gap around the edge there with, I've got wax to do that with, that you can just put in and smooth off and then scrape clean. But before I do that, I'm going to use the mould release wax first, do the whole mould with that, and then I will probably give it a coat of PVA as well, mould release on top of the wax, but it needs a couple of coats of this first. So we will get this going. It's got carnauba wax in it, and hopefully will mean that the whole thing will strip out nicely at the end of it, and if it doesn't, well, we'll have learned a few lessons if nothing else. So I'm just going to put the wax on. I think it needs 2 or 3 coats of this, put on, leave a bit, and then rub off later. And just give me a nice smooth finish to release the mould from. Right, that's got all the wax in the gaps that are likely to catch. It's had 1 coat of the other wax. I'll give it another coat now, and then we'll get all the shuttering done up and do a last coat before I do that. When I've done that, I mean. I've just put a 3rd coat of wax on, and I've just put some little registration blobs of wax on the back of the mould because there'll be 2 halves and the indents will form a little pin on the other half when we do that, so it'll go together properly in the same place. I've got my PVA mould release agent. So I think it's, as usual with me, more than belt and braces. We've got 3 layers of wax and this. So if I can get the lid off, we can get a coat on. I've got my tooling gel ready for when this is dried, and that will go on next. A couple of coats of gel coat on top. Just decant some of this out. It's quite thick. It's like antifreeze colour. Don't know how this will go. We'll see. It's got isopropyl alcohol in it, so in theory it might react with the paint underneath, but there's a layer of wax on top, so we'll just give it a brush over everything, not stay too long. A lot thicker than I thought it would be, but hopefully any brush marks will come out of it, because otherwise they'll just go into the gel coat, I suppose, but not that it's that critical. whole thing will be done with sanding, primer filler and sanded and painted when it's finished. So yeah, it just settles off, all the brush marks come out of it if you leave it. Quite how long it'll take to dry I don't know, but we'll do a bit to one side where I can just try it with the finger later on. Around there, although there shouldn't be a great deal of stuff coming around the sides on the bottom there. It's more this back edge that we're going to have for joins. Right, the finish has dried on the separating membrane, what's it called, the mould release. So it's had 3 coats of wax and a mould release, so I'm hoping it will be okay, bearing in mind I don't know what I'm doing. I've now got the tooling gel, which is the gel coat, and I'm going to mix some of that up so that we can brush that on over the whole of this mould and all the way around the edges. I think I'm going to put 2 coats on, and if it's anything like the green that I did before, it'll get quite messy. So I've got the kitchen scales in a plastic bag so that I survive to live another day if I spill anything on anything. We'll go for 100 grams to start with, and we will mix that 3% with the MEK. So we'll see how we get on with that. 99. Time that goes in, that'll be 100. 102 actually, but we won't fall out over that. Keep it all clean. It does actually seem slightly thicker than the tooling gel that I put on the mould originally, so I'm hoping it will hold on to the vertical surfaces better. Just desperate to keep everything as clean as I can because it will no doubt get everywhere. Otherwise I'll be finding it for days to come on things. Right, put that in the bin. The lid back on, because I'm sure to do something stupid. And now I need 3 grams of MEK, which is the catalyst. So we'll switch it on with the syringe on it and zero it, and we'll fill it up and see what we've got. 8, so we need about half that, I would suggest. There is actually a milliliter scale on that, so I think I'll go with that on the actual syringe. So we'll go with 3 milliliters. I know milliliters aren't the same as grams, but usually these things are pretty close in volumes and weights and things. Mix this in together, catalyst and hardener and resin. We'll see how we get on. Got a disposable brush. Brush that off the spatula thing, mixer. Put that away. So let's make a start and paint it on. And that's the sort of area that I'm going to be going up to, I think, with the surround. It's probably far too big, but what the hell, we've got it. And then we'll get the gel coat onto the mould at the same time. Don't need as much on the bottom because it'll actually be open to the elements when we're glassing. We'll be putting the stuff in through that hole effectively. Again, 100 grams is just about the right amount to do one layer of this, so I would think the other side, when we get onto that, will probably be less. It'll only need about 75 in that case, but we'll just pile the rest on. So there we are, got a good thick layer and it seems to be holding nicely. Just open the door now and let it quietly stink the place out, and I'll go in the house and have a cup of coffee, I think. Right, so we've got the gel coat on the mould, on half the mould anyway, making a start on it, and in future weeks we'll get on and get the rest of it done and get it glassed up. Hope it was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week when we'll be doing something different on the Cyclekart, and I'll hope to see you then. Bye!